This was wild. I was not expecting, but we saw like just short of an 11% improvement going from step one to step three. And then that 11% improvement is on top of the 8% improvement. It's just a huge success rate of people going through the checkout flow. TeamGantt, we are an online project management service. We're centered around a Gantt chart. It's a bunch of different ways to manage a project. My role is to really integrate the five kind of major functions of our business and make sure we're all working on the right things and driving the right results that the business needs. So Nathan and I, we are cousins. Previously, we were working together. My family owns a commercial roofing company. It's one of the largest roofing companies on the East Coast. And we were doing custom software there. And we were using a Gantt chart to manage all of the work that we were doing there. The problem was back then, it was like 2009, 2010. There wasn't much in the online space. What would happen is we would build the schedule, we would print it out, or we would email it around. And then for projects, as soon as you print something and email it, it's like almost immediately out of date. And we thought maybe we can build a better Gantt chart. We realized, you know what, we might have something here. We launched in 2010. So then 2011, we both went to part-time and then over into full-time Team Gantt. And then, yeah, we've just been bootstrapped. So customer funded. We didn't have any outside funding. And we've just been growing the business slowly and steadily ever since. We're a US-based company. We've got customers in, every state in the US, but actually more than half of our business is from outside of the US. We were seeing internally here within the states, tax laws changing for different states and seeing that internationally some sales tax laws were changing for software. And being a small team and not having a huge financial team and all of that, it just really became a burden. We tried doing sales tax ourselves for a little while. And if anyone has worked in calculating, collecting, and remitting sales tax and working with all of the different governments that are involved in that, it is a painstaking process. Being able to offload that and not have that responsibility was really a huge thing we were looking for. So that was one thing. And then beyond that, we've always wanted to get into pricing localization. So to be able to charge in multiple currencies. We actually had, prior to coming to Paddle, we would do currency conversion on the fly. So when a customer would come to check out, we would display the price to them in what we could guess their local currency would be. But then underneath it would say, you'll actually be charged whatever in USD. So we saw successes with that in terms of just displaying the price in the customer, what they're used to seeing. But then when it came time to actually accepting that transaction, we were starting to run into some issues with foreign currencies, foreign transactions. Our payment success rate was dropping. I think we were around like 69%. Payment processor we worked with before was like a very low level payment processor. So anything around like plans, packaging, sales tax, promo codes, all of that stuff, we had to own that complexity. That was a challenge for us in every change, even though seemingly small, was always more work than it felt like it needed to be. And we were ready to move on from that. So we've loosely been connected to Paddle for years. Prior to Paddle purchasing Price Intelligently and Profit Well, we were actually users of both. So we've been very aware of Paddle for a long time. And when we were going through the phase one of sales tax, or we were doing it ourselves, a lot of documentation that Paddle had out there, just in general, was helpful for us. So we knew you guys from that. And then also, as we're going through that research project, we are looking at competitors, we are looking at the market, we're seeing what's out there, we're seeing the different commission rates that different people charge and support levels. We've got some people in our business network that we talk to and even look to like products that we use, like who are they using as their payment processor, and really just combining all of that information together, led us where we are here. Being a software as a service company, it's a subscription model. Any change to something so core as your subscription provider, right? Your billing provider is a pretty big deal and honestly a terrifying thing to change. So we wanted to make sure the whole team was on board with the decision. Once we signed on and started with Paddle and began our internal implementation, the documentation was great. We read that thoroughly to really understand how the API works, what different responses were going to be, what data needed to be provided. We had gotten connected with Sam, oversaw implementation from Paddle's end. We met with him weekly through a 15 or 20-minute stand up, and he was excellent between the developer documentation, the weekly check-ins with Sam, and the private Slack channel that we had. We could really ask any question. Sam would get back to us almost immediately. He was fantastic to work with. So there's been a huge just burden that has been shifted off of the team, and we've been able to focus more on what we want to build. We want to build things for customers. So we rolled out the purchasing piece. If you think of a new customer, you've got step one where you're picking your plan, your number of users, your billing cycle, all of that. On the side of that would be your payment preview. So that's step one. Step two would be entering the payment information into Paddle. And then step three is your success. Pretty much is the exact same step one, two, three we had previously. And all that really changed was just you were filling out Paddle information. So that phase, we saw about an 8% improvement of customers that loaded step one and made it to success. So I attribute a lot of that to we take more payment methods now. There's the smart routing that is going to charge respectively to their region. And then step two was bringing in price localizations. Within step one, everything was just in USD. And then step two, we started being able to charge in the local currency. And at that point, this was wild. I was not expecting, but we saw like just short of an 11% improvement going from step one to step three. And then that 11% improvement is on top of the 8% improvement. So it's not an 11% improvement over the baseline. It's an 11% improvement over the 8% improvement. Yeah, just a huge success rate of people going through the checkout flow. So when you get better payment success rates, you get the smart routing, you get the local currencies. When you combine all of that together, our delinquent churn rate about half. Previously, we were seeing Retain was reporting about a 40% recovery rate with the old payment processor. Since we've moved into Paddle now, we're seeing closer to 60%. To me, that's a huge lift. From the business perspective, there's sales tax liability, and you want to make sure you get that right. And you don't want to get that wrong. And we do everything we can to get it right. But to not have that liability now is great. We're not having to worry about any of this stuff anymore. We're just worried about building out the app and serving our customers as best we can. I think next step for us is exploring pricing sensitivity. So now that we have better success rates in different markets, looking at price sensitivity throughout those markets. We've also always wanted to do tiered discounts or like a tiered pricing. So as you purchase more users, the users get cheaper. So that's something that Paddle handles really right out of the box. Again, our engineering team can focus on building those features and not have to worry about pricing and packaging. We'll be able to get those to market a little quicker because when it comes time to reconfigure the plans, the engineering involvement is going to be very small. We'll be able to do most of the configuration in Paddle. We've got some cool things coming later this year that we're very excited about. And we think it's just going to take your project management, your scheduling, your planning, your resource allocation, your critical path, your dependency management, and all of that just to the next level. As for how that kind of connects in with Paddle, we're likely going to be reworking our plans and our packaging to properly fit the value that we're going to be providing here in this kind of next phase of TeamGantt.